welcome. Today, I think I'm going to do things a little bit different. I think I'm just going to dive in and give a little bit of a tour to what the project is. It's starting to shape up. I'm starting to figure out where we're going with this. And I think that just taking a look is probably going to be a really good way to kind of orient ourselves here. So the core hypothesis is that in the future, people will interact with their agent of preference, their agent harness, their general purpose harness of preference. This could be, ChatGPT. It could be Claude Cowork. It could be that they use Claude Code or Codex. It doesn't really matter. They're going to have a agent or agents that they consider their general purpose harness that they tend to use. And that only specialized software such as CAD and things like that really will be the other way around, where they will be the software first with the agent presence built into it, right? And so that's kind of the dichotomy I expect in the future is we either do everything through our general purpose harness or our general purpose agent, or we happen to be using specialized tools, and even those probably get linked into our ecosystem. Okay, and so what the piece that I'm building here, which is going to get rebranded, by the way, I finally made that decision. It is going to reuse the Ikigai name that I had previously used for a coding agent that I had written. It was a dead-end project. It got very, very far. It was a usable coding agent, probably with a deeper feature set than, I was going to compare it to Pi, but Pi is more robustly done, but it had many, 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 many working features. Anyway, that's kind of an aside, but the Ikigai name is going to get reused here. And the basic premise is that you want to be able to stand up a back end that your general purpose harness connects to. So the general purpose harness that you're using, Claude, Code, Codex, whatever, is just the generic one that everybody else uses. And so you have to have your personalized side to it, right? Now, this might be for your personal use or even more likely for your small business use, right? And so inside of that, I don't have the terms well established yet, but inside of that orchestrator that is that back end piece, you're simply going to connect to it via MCP, and whatever general purpose harness you use then has access to all of your life, all of your business, that kind of thing. And the very first thing I want to do is I just want to show this. There are a couple pieces to it. In the current world, if you are let's get a terminal here. Let's do this. I just want to make sure that being a developer and installing and uninstalling things all the time, you tend to have problems with configurations getting messed up. So I have this really simple to use script prepared so that it can go out and just flush everything from my MCP connections. Because as I was developing these pieces and these tools, of course, you would install them wrong, and then that would mess things up, and you have to get it all cleaned out. And so this little script just cleans out the whole thing. So now if I launch Claude Code, we can see that I have all of the MCP that I have installed are the cloud versions. And so that's a distinction that maybe not everybody understands, but it's true in both the OpenAI and the Anthropic ecosystems, is that you have your tools like Codex and Claude Code that work locally and have local configs and can share the cloud config, but then you have your online ChatGPT or Claude Cowork or whatever, and it's using the cloud side of the world, and it can't see your local config, right? They're all cloud. And so when you're in something like Cloud Code right here, I do get to see the cloud configs and the things that I have connected in my cloud agents. But I have no local servers, which you'll see here. We have a quick little setup install script that I can run. And this only works for Cloud Code because it's a local setup. Or it would work for Codec. It does, I think this through. The same process would work for Codex. It would need a slightly different script. And so what we need here would be to update this so that it recognizes if you're, so that you could pick Cloud Code or Codex to get the right script, right? But what it did, of course, is it went and installed the MCPs. And so what I'll do is over here, let's see if it picks it up live. It doesn't, so we'll exit and then rerun. And if we say MCP, you can see that we now have the 3 MCPs that we're offering up on this website for use. And so each of them needs authentication. And so I would come in and I would authenticate. I have to go to the browser to say okay and pick the identity. I do authentication successful. I can close the window. Actually, let's sign in here. So this was just the sign in. You can see that just now we added one new Cloud Code identity for the CRM MCP. This website is not like some kind of intended finished how the user sees it. It is a development stage so that I can see all the mechanical details of what's going on, right? Okay, but jumping back over, we can still authenticate the others, right? So I can authenticate Ledger and hit authenticate. It opens up the browser window. We pick our identity. It can install them for us, but it can't. So that's one of the limitations today is it can install multiple MCPs for us, but it cannot authenticate them. You have to do that through interactively through the browser. Now, ideally, we would get it so that you could do it one time, and that's a little bit of a problem at the moment with the way MCP works, in that if you want to have different tool sets versus one ginormous tool set, you have to split them up and authenticate separately. There's no like ganged method by which you can authenticate a whole like domain or whatever. That's not entirely, yeah, is that entirely true? Okay, so on the team and business side, you can do it because you can go in and you can add those things one time and then everybody in the organization gets them. But on the individual accounts, you still have to add them and authenticate them that one time. Okay, so we have all the MCPs installed. To demonstrate that we can connect to them, I'm going to say use the whoami tool for each of the CRM Ledger and Notify MCP. So this is just a diagnostic tool that I have built into each of these MCPs. So as soon as it shows the output here, you'll be able to see it. So it can see that I am logged into the CRM service as me. And then the actual client that I'm connecting with has a specific ID. And that specific ID relates to the token that's used here for it to be authenticated, right? And so, of course, we can, so let's just take its prompt there and list my CRM contacts. And you can see it's going out and using the CRM service that is built into that endpoint. Now, the CRM service that's there, the Ledger, these are just test things at this point, right? So you can see that I am in here as well as Barney Rubble. And hey, it even knows what I was going to do next. It was going to add Fred Flintstone to my CRM. His email is fred@bedrock.com. He has no phone. And this is the way that I expect people to be interacting with software in the future, right? They're going to use their general purpose harness to talk to their tool sets in the cloud, right? You do not need to go interact with a website, etc. Okay, so just to follow this through, these work as you would expect in ChatGPT and Claude, or Claude. I guess I don't know. I mean, chat. I don't know. Is there a second part to that name? Okay, so what I wanted to show here is how to add these, because it was a real challenge to sort this out. First, maybe a jump over here. There are a number of different account types, right? And so up here on the top, we have the GPT ones. You have free, Go, Plus, Pro, which it comes in 2 levels: Pro $100, Pro $200. You have the business accounts, which are 2 seats and more, and then you have the enterprise accounts over 150 seats. On the Anthropic side, you have free, Pro, Max. You have Teams, which starts at 5 seats, $20 a piece, and then you have the enterprise. As far as I know, I think that everything except for the free accounts can set up MCP. Not 100% sure of that. It might be Plus and better, Plus and Pro and better. But in general, most accounts except for the free have this. Okay. On the GPT side, to enable this, it's a little bit hidden. You have to be in the web application. You cannot be in the desktop application. The desktop application is behind. Not all features are in it. So the way that you would enable this in ChatGPT is you would click on Apps. You would click the gear icon up here, and you would have to go into I think you have to go into advanced settings once to turn on developer mode. So this has to be flipped on before you can do this. And then once it's on, you would just click create an app, and you would give it its name. So we're gonna name it CRM. And what you need, I could grab it. Well, I will. I'll grab it off of here. What you need is the MCP connection point for URL for the app. So I could have typed it, but it goes there. And I'm just going to say in the description, Meta Spot CRM. And it's going to do OAuth connection. You have to say, yes, this is all very dangerous, and click create. Now, very much, there's no way to automate this. I played with plugins, etc. You might be able to do it with custom GPTs. I haven't gotten quite that far. Okay, so just like with Cloud Code, now we're to the point where you have to sign in with the CRM. It's going to give you a web page, pick an identity, and we will get a... So in the case of the web ones, what they're doing is they're actually spinning up some kind of little virtual service that can do the MCP conversation, because there's a callback in there that has to go somewhere. And so that's why it takes a little while, because they're spinning up some kind of little VM or a Lambda type service to do this thing for us. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but something along those lines. Okay, and so here you can see, you got some settings. We can let it reference memories in chat, and it is installed. And if I come back over here and if I do a new chat, I can say, can you see the... I think I spelled that wrong. Nope, I got it right. And we should be able to see that I'll just say so there's really nothing particularly unique here. Right. It is just the core hypothesis, right? Which is I have tools in the background. I just use my preferred general purpose harness. In this case, I'm pretending that is ChatGPT. It has access to all my information. This particular harness also has access to everything that we just flip the switch so we can see our previous chats. And so this becomes the place from which you work, but like the things that are unique to you are either apps that you've added here. So these are general purpose, apps. I want to add Adobe Photoshop, or I want to add, GitHub or whatever, and that becomes available here. But what the Ikigai side is hey, this is custom software that is specific to you that the rest of the world doesn't have, but you can add it in to your general purpose agents experience, right? And this could be the software that runs your business, or maybe you're kind of the prosumer type person who, is somewhere between a normal a normal consumer and a business, and you have complex needs, and you want to build out. Maybe you're a developer, you want to build out your special purpose stuff, right? It's the Ikigai platform is that space where, well, it's not really available. It's never going to become available on the public market because it's tailored to me or my business. Okay, so let me go back to that chat so you can see that it did everything. It was connected just the same as I was when I was using Cloud Code here in my desktop session. And if I go over and look, you can see that there is a more recent ChatGPT entry, right? That is a token that was given to. That is the identity that we connect it as, right? So that's how it's authenticating when it comes to this website. So that's really what this code is doing right now, and I'll talk about it in a second. Is it's providing that framework for the authentication for a bunch of services that live and work together, right? Okay, so I also want to show it in Cloud Code, in Cloud Chat real quick. Let me think this through. To do this, you go to Customize, you go to Connectors. Inside of Connectors, the little plus button, add a custom connector, give it a name like CRM, and then it needs the URL for the MCP endpoint, which is srv crm MCP. So it will want us to connect. It failed. Did I type something wrong? Yep, I got the URL wrong. So let me delete this one and then re-add it. I missed a letter in the URL. So the disadvantage of not copy pasting. So CRM HTTPS ai.metaspot.org SRV. So it's a list of different services at Metaspot. The service we want is CRM, and the endpoint that we need for this is MCP. And so we connect, and then we connect, and pick an identity. And we are now connected. We can go back to the chats. If we look, we have yet another Claude identity that just now connected, right? And if we go, say, can you list the contacts in the... So can you list the contacts in the Metaspot CRM? Just showing that it is also connected. Again, the whole point here is whatever general purpose harness that you choose is the one that you like. You get to... what happened? I did hit enter. Oh, it's letting... I'm in the wrong place. It was letting me... new chat. Sorry. Can you list the contacts in the Metaspot CRM? Okay. Now remember, I mean, from a user's perspective, the only thing you do here is you add the app or the connection. and then you use it, right? So maybe more broadly for people that aren't familiar with it, can you show the tools offered by CRM? So the way an MCP works, it just offers up a tool list, right? And so these are all the different tools that currently exist in the CRM. The CRM is a proof of concept. It is not something that I'm really using. It will be something that I'll finish developing at some point. But you can see that it can add contacts and edit their emails and their phone numbers. And it has this little diagnostic tool. All of the services have this diagnostic tool. It helps to make sure it, I'll probably turn it into something more like, instead of just the who am I, I'll turn it into something like CRM Doctor or whatever, or CRM Diagnostic or something like that. And what it'll do is it'll provide a bunch of information to make sure that it's all plumbed together and working and it's doing the things that it should be. Now, one of the things I didn't do, and we should have got a notification, and we did. In fact, you can see the old one here, but we just added Fred just a little bit ago, and we did get a notification for Fred showing up, right? And I think maybe this is the point where I jump over to the Miro and talk a little bit about what we have going on here. So just to reorient ourselves here, kind of what I've been talking about in the past is that so Ikigai, now the name for this thing, is a platform for running things like that CRM. Currently, in fact, if we jump back over to the dashboard, you can see that we have 3 services running here. A ledger, which is just for bookkeeping, and Notify, which is just basically a microservice that knows how to talk to Notify and send notifications, right? So it's the gateway it's so that I don't have to wire up a Notify API in every one of the microservices. There is just a event bus that they're all sitting on, and when one of them sends it's actually the other way around. The Notify service is wired up to watch for certain events, and when it sees those events, it fires off notifications. And that's really where I kind of want to get to right now here. So I've been talking about this kind of in the generic vague sense, right, in the past, right? So you have a user, general purpose harness. We spent a bunch of time talking about channels. I still have a to-do list over here, which is partially worked through to investigate some things. But the bulk of it is just trying to show that your general purpose harness is wired up. It might be wired up to public services, and it might be wired up to private services. And then what we're really talking about is building some kind of orchestration platform that we run our custom services in. And this is going to be very sloppy. But what I'm going to do is I want to talk about where things have gone so far. So this really is kind of this whole box over here. It's all the custom services, right? And so what exists today is there is so the whole thing, of course, is served behind Nginx. And the website that we're interacting with is just a service I'm calling Dashboard right now. It'll probably change at some point, right? So, let me change those. That'll bug me. Okay, so we have Dashboard. We have we now have 3 other services. These, again, are not fleshed out. They're not even ones that I would expect people to necessarily use in the future. They are concepts for me to understand what the whole platform needs to be able to do, right? Okay, so we have Dashboard, we have CRM, any of these could disappear at any time right now because they are just proofs of concept. And then we have notify. And I'm going to list one more that we don't have today that I am going to be starting work on here very shortly. So we're going to have Ralph. I have historically been using the name Ralph for anything that's connected to AFK or run in the background type agentic workflows. Obviously, that's not exactly the original meaning of it. I just kind of got stuck there, and that's what this is going to be. So I'll explain it in a little more depth, but basically it's going to be the background agent that can do stuff for us. It can interact with these other things. Okay. What's not shown here is that I'm not sure that I'm quite prepared to dive into it, but okay. This is the only UI, right? So the only UI is in the dashboard. This dashboard is for managing this orchestration system, right? It's not for displaying any of the user interface. You need a place to redirect. You need a place to be able to go revoke tokens. All of this will also be plumbing that you can do through MCP. So the dashboard itself will have I lost where I'm going. The dashboard itself will have MCP, and so you can connect to it. But you kind of have to have that bootstrap mechanism in case things aren't working, where you can just go plunk down in the user interface and deal with it. And so that's what the dashboard is. Okay. The way it works is that Nginx, let me think this through. It has the dash SRVs, and each of these services are plumbed up behind one of those paths. So anything that is dash SRV CRM, of course, is getting wired or is getting sent resolved to the background service for a CRM, and the same for Ledger, and the same for Notify, and the same for Ralph. The thing I wasn't sure I wanted to talk about, I want to give a brief explanation. These have an event bus. This is is intended to be an actor modeled system, right? It has an event bus, and it's really unique. It's not. I'm not sure that it's going to stay exactly the way it is. I think that it is, but it is a home built system. Instead of using something like Kafka. Because it was so simple. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. Every one of these is backed by. They don't have to be, but if they have backing, right now, every one of these is effectively it might be the permanent pattern, but it certainly is the current pattern where every one of these apps is a single binary with a SQLite database. They have a uniform set of verbs that you can manage the deployments with. So I can, provision one and decommission one, and I can start and stop it, and I can back up and restore it, and I can set secrets for it. I think that's the full set. And every one of those observes the same, and every one of these is very similar piece of code. This is by design. It's not intended to run generic random software. It's intended to run things that you're going to build here for reasons that I'll kind of explain as we move here. But also baked into these things then is a messaging system. So in addition, so the CRM space serves up a listens on a publishes to. Sorry, let's start with that. Let's start with the publishing side. So it's going to publish to the to feed. So let's say that I go in, and this is how this works. So let's So let's jump back over here and say, let's, okay, so when I do this, right, we don't have a notification that we've created Betty yet. But when I do this, what's going to happen is this is reaching out to the MCP on MCP or via MCP, via that protocol, to talk to the CRM service. The CRM service has a create contact task. When it writes that create contact, it also publishes a message to the feed. So that's a known event for that service to publish, right? And so what it does is, let's jump back over here, is it's going to save Betty in the database, and then exactly when it creates the entry, it puts Betty on the feed. Betty becomes available on the feed. What it also does is it pings anybody that's listening to the feed. It doesn't actually say, hey, here's Betty. What it does is it says, hey, I got a new entry. And the reason being is because the individual services that are watching this feed, think of it as like watching an RSS feed, right? They're responsible for keeping their own cursor as to where they're at in the list. And so they get a ping that says, hey, there's a new contact entry. And every one of the services then, if it's caught up, it's going to be sitting there waiting, and it's going to get that ping, and it's going to say, oh, give me the new contact. Or if it's in the middle of still reading because it wasn't waiting, it's just going to look at the ping, which didn't tell it anything about what new contact existed, just that there was one there, and it's like, I don't care, I'm still reading, and it's going to keep on reading. So to kind of elaborate on that, the way this works is that notify, let's undo that little change and say that notify is listening to that particular feed, right? And so the way the configuration works is individual services publish all the events that they know how to publish, right? So knowing how to publish an event is a function of the service of whatever it does. Oh, in the CRM, we publish when we get new users, or we delete old users, or we update addresses, or whatever it might be. The CRM publishes an event. Whatever services want to subscribe to those events. What we're doing, the way we're constructing this, is that let me lock that so it doesn't move around. The individual services are 100% responsible for their feed, and so all the information for managing this feed is in the database, right? So what messages have been published, even which that's really it right now. So I'll say that much. And then the services that listen, they're 100% responsible for managing their state of listening. And it makes it a really simple system. There is no external broker. If I want to, it is very ad hoc, so that when you want to create a new service, you go plunk it in the system, and then you start wiring up who can listen, or, if you think about the rational way that this works, we're adding a new service. Well, it obviously has these particular events that other people will care about, so they get published to the feed. And then you go over and you wire up, then you update the individuals that would care to listen to that feed, because, you're going to have to write code as to what they do when they get that response, right? So you update those and you say, yep, you're listening to this feed for these types of events, right? And these two things end up completely separated from one another. The way backup and restore works in this, I don't know. I don't know how deep I want to go with this. One of the things that I've done with the messaging, now keep in mind this messaging system was birthed over 2 days. It started with the evaluation. Do we use an existing system, Redis subpub? Do we use Kafka? Do we do something else? What it boiled down to is all of those were antithetical to kind of the goals and the approach I'm doing here. The one of the primary goals, I should start sharing these repos, but everything is on one server. It's intended to be able to scale very small. All of these services, so these are going to play into future decisions, and a lot of people will think I'm crazy, but all of the services are going to be effectively uniform in shape, programming language, just about everything, and they're all going to run on one server, and they're intended to run very lean. This system is 100% just HTTP and server sent events. And it absolutely sits idle and will work really well with burstable instance types in EC2. So you can build this on top of a really small instance type. When there are no messages moving around, everything is truly sitting idle on a lock in the CPU, in the kernel, burning no CPU, and you are building credits on that burstable instance. And the goal here is this is for, kind of the prosumer / small business. In both cases, they sleep. You get to build credits in those periods, right? They are not always active, but they will have bursts of activity when the people sit down in front of it, when the workday is happening, and that you want to burn those credits. And so it really is built around that. Everything is built in Go. It could change to Rust in the future, but right now in the prototyping, it's all built in Go. This means that we're running relatively small, lean services. I mean, these things are 40, 50 megabytes, complete with all the web the HTTP harnessing to do everything here. The sizes of the databases are strictly, they correspond to the amount of data that comes through them. It is small and lean. Part of the uniformity of this is that we are in the future going to be able to say, while talking to the dashboard's MCP, use this template, create a new service. And it's literally going to, name it this, and it's going to be able to create the GitHub repo, create the service, and then you're going to be able to pull it into working sessions and write the code for it, and it just all is there. You had basically zero effort to create and stand it up. You have, no matter where you're at in this process and you're talking to it, because everything is so uniform and we can explain it to the agent so well that this is how things are structured, they can then start helping you write code. The only thing you're really writing is the domain level code, which is 100% unique and generic, but the agent, you'll have to work with the agents in a normal way, like you're writing code for that part. But in terms of everything else, it's really just say, create the new app, deploy the app, back up the app, restore the app, do these things. It knows how to do it for you. I kind of have gotten off track. I want to jump back to make sure that I kind of fully explained this messaging system. So each service is responsible for its publications. Think of it as an RSS feed. It's partially modeled after an RSS feed. Every reader is responsible for holding on to an opaque cursor that it gets when it reads. So every time it goes out and reads, it gets a cursor that kind of says, I'm here, I'm at this point in the list. And every time it reads the next thing, it passes back that cursor. There's a little bit of special mechanics around on the first connect. Does it want to replay the whole history, or does it want to start at the current point? There's a little bit of mechanics around, there are reasons, let's say that there's a backup and restore that happens either for the listener or the publisher. There are reasons that a cursor can become non-usable. It's in the future from the perspective of the CRM, which has been backed up and restored. It doesn't know what to do with that, or it's so far in the past that it can't be used or whatever. And so there are a little bit of mechanics around when the subscriber tries to pull from the feed. It can get an error message that says, "Hey, hang up, resubscribe. This is your new cursor." There are some little bit of safeguarding around that, but it is so ridiculously lean. All the subscriber is doing is making an HTTP request, a long-lasting HTTP request, to an SSE endpoint, which ends up getting blocked. We end up using TCP for the back pressure and flow control here. The CRM, the publisher doesn't care where the consumer is on the feed. It can have 20 consumers. What it's tracking is it is doing some. Okay, so I should get into it. All it's really doing is sticking it in the log, and then it just replays from the log wherever the cursor from the subscriber asked for. Okay, there is a little bit more mechanics on the CRM side, or on the publisher side. What it's doing is it has a list of known subscribers. Every subscriber creates a UUID the first time it connects to a service, and it always uses that UUID as its identity. And so the publisher is aware of the cursor position of every subscriber. And what it does is it uses that to know how much to trim the log, right? So the log has a maximum size, but ideally we keep it trimmed as short as the confirmed value last read. The way that we confirm the value is, are they at message +1? If they ever asked for message +1, that's a protocol guarantee that they have already processed the previous message and they are moving on. And so then the publisher can use that information to trim the log so that it's not going to grow to disastrous sizes. On top of that, the log has a maximum cap. I don't care who hasn't caught up. If we get this big, we're just going to start removing things. And that's where some of those error message and handling comes in, where you come back to the subscriber, they come and ask for something that's been trimmed off of the back of the log. You don't have it to give it to them. You say, "Sorry, bozo, here's your error. You have to resubscribe." You decide how you want to cope with the fact that the data's lost, right? It is a really, really simple system. I do have it wrote up pretty well. Actually, maybe I'll share this and see if let's see if I have it as public. And that is interesting. So right now, it still exists. I thought we renamed it. It is going to get renamed to Ikigai, so it'll be here as Ikigai. So I'm going to show this right now. Sorry, I went to the wrong place. I'm going to show this. There is an event protocol that is all written up that does describe this. It is effectively what we're using to define it. That is being used to write the event plane library. The event plane library then gets pulled into each of the actual services, right? So it is fully laid out. That is not strictly vibe coded. That is pretty well vetted because it's core to the whole service. There's a limit to how vetted it is, but I actually do think that it's robust. The limit exists because it's not clear to me yet that this all stays in Go. We might rewrite the whole thing in Rust. And so, there was a limit to how deep I want to go. But I am fairly confident that the protocol covers all error scenarios. It punted on one. I'm not safe. I'd have to go back to my notes. I punted on one really, really unlikely, bizarre chain of events, in the sense that it wasn't handled special. It just becomes a, "Hey, bozo, your cursor can't be used. Restart. Create a new session." So in that sense, it still works, but it was a chain of events that was technically recoverable on, and I decided just to punt on it. Eventually, when I do this more robustly, I'll make sure that every recoverable path is recoverable. Okay. Where I'm at right now, a couple of things. So I did a whole bunch of work, and you can see I even kept notes here. This is what I had showed you a little bit ago. This is how we went and connected and enabled the custom connectors. One of the things is to be able to deliver custom GPTs or plugins for Claude Code or Claude, and those will contain a package of skills and commands and things that relate to the services that are being run inside of this particular endpoint. I did a bunch. This is me working through the lists of, okay, you can do it in, so like I can do it in Cowork, but, because of Cloud Config or Cloud Code, but in local config, it's all the differences, right? Understanding what account levels, I have that pretty well nailed down, like I said, at this point. In the end, it's different paths, right? So I guess the way to look at it, the simplified way to look at it, if you're not completely familiar, and I wasn't, as much as I use these tools, I live in the code side, and so I don't generally use the consumer tools much. But the basic difference, the way I would represent it is you have a couple of this applies to both Anthropic and OpenAI. You have the differences between their cloud tools and their local development tools. And even with that said, OpenAI leans more heavy towards the cloud tools. Even their local development tools sandbox like their cloud tools. But still, you have cloud tools and you have local development tools. If you are using Claude Code or Codex, you are using local tools. You're able to use local tools, and you can completely script the whole thing. A plugin or a script could come in and install all the pieces, all the MCP, all the scripts, all the things to customize the experience. If you are on the cloud side, it's a little bit more complex. You can package up a plugin or a GPT that has all the scripts and identity and stuff like that. But you can't do the MCP in both cases, both for Anthropic and for OpenAI. You have to do what you've seen me do now, which is go in and say add connector, add connector, add connector. And that is the only path to adding those external connections. And that generally works anywhere from Plus or Pro on up for sure. It works in both the web interfaces as well as the desktop AIs. So a thing to know when you're using Claude Desktop or ChatGPT Desktop, they are using the web config. They're not really running local, not in the same way that Codex or Claude Code do. Okay, so that was a big part of what I had done in the last couple of days, was truly, truly understanding this so that I can understand what we can deliver. In addition to that, we did the entire messaging backbone from scratch. I'm very, very happy with this. It is very easy to deal with. You can come in, add a new service or delete a service. The only thing that happens, so let's say that I delete, CRM. The only thing that happens is Notify is not going, it's going to fail every time it tries to go read from that feed. The feed went away. So this becomes something that's in its diagnostics, right? So, you basically are going to be on the dashboard and you're going to run a doctor command, a diagnostics command. It's going to come up and say, hey, Notify is repeatedly failing trying to read from this. Well, obviously, because I deleted the damn thing. So, that's your reminder to go fix the code for it or whatever. The PubSub discovery system, probably gets a discovery service to help manage this in the future, but it's not something that I need right now. It's just something that's baked into these configs. It probably becomes something you can manipulate in the dashboard UI, where you can say, yes, have this service read from here. The code still has to know the message type. It has to know the event type. But once you have an event type, you can say, yes, read from, or, you can enable or disable that connection or something like that. Okay, what's next? This isn't perfect. It's a little loose, doesn't have good discovery. But the next thing is the Ralph agentic part of this. That's been a part of the conversation. Why not use Hermes? I mean, that's me asking myself that question. Why not use Hermes or OpenClaw? One, I really want this. I don't want to compromise. Okay, I want to rephrase that. I don't really think that Hermes is a compromise in terms of quality or something. What I'm saying is I have a specific set of goals with this, which is that it is a self-contained server, all running in a uniform set of tools, all baked together that understands itself. And Hermes is not that thing. And I could wire it in so it felt native, but it would always be a separate project that had separate goals that was never perfectly aligned with what I was trying to do here. Combine that with the fact that I have already written, they progressively go backwards from really primitive, but I have written 4 agents at this point and like 5 unique AFK type Ralph loops that are very sophisticated. I have absolutely no qualms with writing a core. I have a set of Go code that is about 90% of what I need to do to get an agent running in here. More what I have to do is decide what the MCP to connect to it looks like and exactly how you're managing it. I mean, it's going to be something like an MCP that lets you create a new session. It lets you define the prompt for that session, and it lets you one-shot, loop, or trigger that prompt. In other words, once we've created the session and we've created the prompt, you can say, I want to run it once, run it on a loop, or run it in response to these events. And so this thing lives up there. Further, the set of tools available to that agent is going to include the ability to send messages on this bus and to listen for, well, it may not listen. It might only trigger on events. That's probably more likely. But it certainly is going to be able to publish new events, right? Things to be figured out. But it's tightly baked in. Again, a slightly different perspective. You're not going to run Ralph and teach it its soul like you do with Hermes, right? The general purpose harness that you use every day is going to be the thing that you flavor. This is just a tool for that harness to use in the background. It can go do agentic things that are long-lived, that loop, that run on a schedule, are triggered, whatever, right? Further, you can pick the provider and the models and the reasoning level or the effort level, right? Based on the tools and the thing that you're doing. And so these become, this list of sessions is kind of like a simpler, smaller set of services that exist in this ecosystem, right? There's an orchestrator for it, Ralph, but they otherwise kind of exist in this ecosystem. So you have this split. Can the thing that I want to do custom be done with a quick prompt and build a session in an agent? Or do I need to build a whole piece of code to do this thing because it needs to do X, Y, and Z? Now, I haven't figured out everything. I'm pretty sure what's going to happen here is that, of course, we will sandbox these little sub-agents, these sessions, into, folders. I may do the full bubble wrap thing. I haven't decided on this yet. There's a lot to be decided there. But this, Ralph, is the next thing, right? None of this is polished, but I need to get this next layer into the system so that I can start to, I mean, the way I think of it is, you're sketching. We are in a very loose pencil sketch yet, and we don't have this whole Ralph section even in there. Okay, so let's add the Ralph section. And once we get that in there, then we can say, oh, does the composition work, or do we need to move things around and get the eraser out, right? That is the stage that I'm at with the Ralph loop. And again, back to what I was saying, Hermes is a very interesting project, but it just isn't a perfect fit. And I don't remember who it was. I was just listening to somebody online, another developer of some type, and they really hit on my mindset, which is, I know who it was. It was Andrew Kelly, I think is his name, from Zig, and he was talking about just, he has a set of goals that he wants to do, and why compromise, right? Why take the shortcuts when I can make it exactly right? And so the exactly right for me here in this case is, this is intended to be a very tight, lean thing, an easy place. It's a developer platform. I mean, you could think of it as a very personalized little tiny Heroku that you are going to develop your custom agents on for small businesses or your personal life, and it works one exact way. It works the way I want it to work. I'm hoping that it resonates with other people as I start to get it built out. I'm sure people will call me crazy before I get to the point where I can really demo it. But it's going to build. It's going to have a build system baked into it. It's really only going to be set up to do these. These Go apps. It's going to have this Ralph component where it can do agentic things. Inside of that space, I will probably give it Python, because agents want to be able to reach out and use Bash and Python. It for sure is going to have a Bash tool, and that Bash tool is going to be sandboxed, and the tools that we decide to give that Bash tool are a little bit of an open decision. But I am assuming that, I probably will. That's the place where it'll kind of have the escape hatch, and it will get a Bash tool. Okay. I have gone crazy trying to explain this. The project is going to get rebranded as Ikigai. In the future, probably on Friday, a couple of things. I'm going to make some decisions about the exact time that I'm broadcasting these, so people could actually, if they wanted to, watch them. Nobody was really watching these, but that's fine. I'm going to keep doing it. I'll probably get the repos available to publish, or set up so that people can access them. Again, this isn't a final tool. This isn't production quality. It's not that far away from production quality though either. But it's going to be a little bit. The whole point of this stream is it's a take the viewer on the ride as we sort this out and figure out what we're building. And I am getting closer and closer. We're starting to know what this looks like. I'm doing some. I got to deal with a little bit of renaming and things right now, and get things all set up and get the repos set up. And I'm also diving into building Ralph. This is going to be my big focus. I actually have, as in the sense that I have available tokens, I'm going to have some background processes actually starting to build out the CRM to be a real usable thing, and the ledger to be a real usable thing. Okay. I think that is pretty much everything I wanted to share today. Again, I'm going to start doing these, I think maybe noon CST, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I think might be my plan. I'll announce that for sure and attach it to the channel in the near future. I'll have repos to share in the near future. I will have more demos in the near future. Today and tomorrow, I'm going to go off and see how far I can get the Ralph service along in the scheme of things. So, thanks for watching.